Welcome back. Now, as awareness around autism continues to improve, our next guest is using her own experience and literary talents to play her part.
Yes, here to tell us more is author Niamh Garvey. Good morning, Niamh. Thank you so much for joining us. So your diagnosis was at 34. So had you any inclination growing up that you were autistic?
Oh yeah, there were a lot of signs that, you know, a lot of differences in me as a child, but I didn't know what it was until I got diagnosed at 34. And even as a child, I would have seen speech and language therapists for speech delay. I saw developmental paediatricians, and I'd seen psychologists, but nobody noticed autism in me. And I used to have these shutdowns where I'd stare at a wall and I'd stop talking for very long periods of time. But again, it was called attention seeking back then. They didn't realise there was an autistic meltdown or shutdown. So, and I was quite badly bullied as well between the ages of 10 to 12. And it was made very clear to me by other children that I was different and that I didn't fit in. So, like most autistic people, you know you're different, but I didn't know why.
We've spoken to quite an awful lot of people who have gotten a diagnosis later in life. Yeah. And never have I heard of something as severe as that, to be honest. It doesn't feel like an awful lot of people, because we know that boys and girls, especially girls, can mask so much. Yeah. That does seem like you were going through quite a lot when you were younger.
Yeah, I was, but I was a very academic child. I was very good studiously, and so even if questions were raised in school, you know, because I was well able to study, I was able to sit in class, no problem. They didn't see it as sort of a developmental issue, you know.
Was that a relief then to you when you were finally diagnosed? Did it all just go, my God, now I know?
Yeah, it was a huge relief. Really, I think getting diagnosed was the kindest thing I've ever done for myself, because it just validated my experience and made me go, oh, there's a reason I felt different, or there was a reason I was missing the social nuances. And it just gave me the language I needed. And without the language around autism, I was misinterpreting things in my life. For example, I used to have what I thought were panic attacks when I was in certain supermarkets. And I mean now my heart was going, I was sweating, I felt nauseous, and I'd actually abandon my trolley and just leave the supermarket. But I didn't understand, how is this a panic attack? Because I'm not having any anxious thoughts, you know? And when I learned I was autistic, I then realised they were meltdowns, and I was having sensory overload in a specific aisle in the shop where the cash registers were beeping and the shampoos were glaring and the noise of the squeaking on the floor of the trolley. So the minute I realised, oh, that's an autistic meltdown, I was then able to put supports in place for myself and manage the sensory overload, and then that stopped happening.
That's incredible. Sorry, like just to have something like that, because you thought it was something completely and utterly different, which I'm sure there's lots of people who were like that with the sensory issues. Your diagnosis at 34 came because of your child. It came because your child. Yeah. You were looking into her autism, and you were getting specifically trained because you were a nurse.
Yeah, I was a nurse, but I didn't get any training in autism as a nurse. And in fact, the only time we covered autism in nursing college was when we were doing modules on intellectual disability. So we were only looking at autism through the lens of people who have an intellectual disability and would have high care needs in nursing. So we never covered more autistic people like myself. So I was never able to see myself through that. But I began the diploma in autism studies in UCC in order to better support my daughter. And that's when I had alarm bells ringing going, this is making a lot of sense to me in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you're saying, like, the sensory overloads, like you'd have to leave the supermarket and now you have the tools to deal with it, what would those tools be?
Yeah, so I would use noise-cancelling headphones or earplugs in order to manage the sound. I might wear sunglasses just for that aisle to block out the glare. Okay. Or sometimes I just avoid those aisles and I do my shopping online now. Because that's much easier. Yeah. Now I recognise what the problem was. Yeah. I avoid what doesn't suit me, and I bring tools for what does suit me.
What helps you.
Yeah, exactly.
We saw this weekend thousands of people out for the As I Am walk, which Adam Harris organised. Thousands of people out for it. It was incredible. The Doll Sleep Out was last week as well. Yeah. So many people there looking for supports for their children who cannot get school places. We've talked about this so many times, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. You've done something else different now, and this is from your course in UCC. It's a book, Wired Our Own Way, an anthology of Irish autistic voices. Tell us about this book.
Yeah, so it's a collection of essays by 24 Irish autistic writers. It's got a really diverse range of voices. We've got people with intellectual disability, we've non-speaking writers, we've people diagnosed late in life, we've footballer James McLean, Stephanie Preisner, we've award-winning authors, and it's just bringing people's own voices and their lived experiences, because I found when I was studying the diploma in autism studies, the things that made me most understand autism were real-life stories of autism, and it really changed facts and figures into something I could relate to. So that's what I wanted with this book, was to bring all these multiple voices and multiple experiences and let the general public know what it actually feels like and means to be autistic.
Did you learn anything from these people?
I actually learned a lot, yeah. Especially from Fiachra Ryan, who's a non-speaking autistic man, and he's a writer and poet as well. And he, because I have no personal experience of non-speaking autism, so, you know, something that really stood out that he said was, people assume that I'm incapable of learning, but my mind is intact in a body that doesn't always cooperate. You know, and I just thought, wow, you know, the non-speaking autistic experience is so different to my own. And sometimes they can't raise their voice, so I was really happy to be able to assist him in raising his voice, because people need to know that side of autism too. And
you're doing something there. You've got a...
Oh, I'm stimming, yeah.
You're stimming right now.
Yeah, it's just how I help regulate and relax myself, is to have a nice smooth stone in my hand.
Smooth stone, and you just... And that helps you?
Oh, yeah, completely, yeah. It gives my body something to focus on, because autism is a difference in your nervous system, which means it's a difference in how we take in information, process it and react to it. So when I'm using a stone, it's helping me regulate my nervous system and focus on this, which helps me to talk to you.
That's just incredible. Are there little things that we can, like, just to realise that that's something that someone might need to do to help them a little bit more?
Yeah. And even just something, your producer really helped me on Friday by explaining exactly what was going to happen today, explaining the time frame, explaining what to expect. And that turned the whole experience into something predictable. And I stopped being, I wasn't anxious coming in.
So you weren't overwhelmed about coming in this morning?
No, otherwise I might not have come. As in, I wouldn't have agreed to do it. I don't mean I wouldn't have turned up. You know, so when things are made predictable and you're told what to expect, it's a really, really simple accommodation to give someone, but it's the difference of someone being able to engage in something and carry something out.
It is like then the general public, non-autistic people, to be aware of things like that for you, to explain little things like that.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to do more.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think the best way to do that is to listen to autistic voices and not professionals talking about autism, you know.
Actual people who are living through this. It's called Wired Our Own Way, an anthology of Irish autistic voices. It's got so many things in it, like autism at 70 and all this kind of stuff. It's very interesting. Niamh Garvey, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today. We really appreciate it. It's been fantastic.
We really do, and thank you so much.
We'll be back with you in Ireland AM in just a minute.